All right, welcome to today's episode of Your Daily Scrum. I am professional Scrum trainer Ryan Ripley, and with me as always is professional Scrum trainer Todd Miller. Todd, how you doing today?
I'm doing great. I really like how you emphasize my name and there. I would appreciate you doing that moving forward.
All right. I appreciate those edits. We are going to keep. Hey, I love feedback. Speaking of feedback, Todd, we've been getting a ton of feedback and comments and all sorts of craziness on the channel. I think we've doubled the number of subscribers. We've got, 20, 30 comments floating around that we've tried to answer. You guys are awesome. So thank you for smashing that like button. Thank you for sharing the videos. Let's keep that up. The more people who follow, the more content we can do. And so today is actually a question, Todd, that came from one of the listeners that I think you were interacting with. So Ben F.
Yeah.
He sent us a question on one of the comments. So you see, everybody, we do take your questions from the comments and turn them into videos. Ben asked us, what is the hardest part about being a Scrum Master? What a great question, right?
It is a great question. And actually one that caused me to reflect quite a bit.
Yeah, so where are you landing on this one, Todd? What is the hardest part about being a Scrum Master?
I've thought about this quite a bit, and I'm gonna start with for me.
Yeah.
For me, what's hard, because I think that what we'll find is something is difficult for each individual more so than anything. And you were saying too the context of the situation that you're in, but for me, what's really difficult is to refrain from solving. Right. I have a development background. I'm still, as you know, very passionate about coding. Right.
Yeah.
And regardless of what domain of work you're working with, whether software or human resources, marketing, wherever you're using Scrum, this notion of trying not to solve and become the crutch of the entire team is really difficult for me, because I want to hop in and help solve technology problems. I want to hop in and guide direction. Sometimes even take over events that aren't maybe mine, like the daily Scrum, and try to fix everything when sometimes you're better off letting people fix it themselves, right? So that's always been difficult for me. I've always had that kind of sitting on my shoulder and trying to let's say, like, I think as the saying goes, lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink, right? I don't want to push people into something, but I think I can come across that way sometimes. So it's really difficult for me to take that stance. How about you, Ryan?
Yeah, for me, I think really becoming a good Scrum Master and growing into that role, one of the hardest parts was realizing that I really had to fix certain aspects of my own character. Right? There were a lot of problems that I had with myself that I really had to fix before I could help other people. I think as a Scrum Master, you have to learn to be patient, right? You're not going to see change happen overnight, and you're not going to convince people of the benefits of agility in a day. And so learning to be patient, learning to, honor the small wins that we were getting, and being pleased with, and content with incremental improvement. That was a big one. I think humility was another. I really had to humble myself a bit to fulfill this role in a good way, right? Because you can't be front and center. You can't want all the attention. It can't be about you. In fact, nothing about this role is about you. Nothing about being a Scrum Master has anything to do with your agenda, your intentions, your desires, your goals, your aspirations. It's all about serving a group of developers. It's all about serving a product owner. It's all about serving an organization. And so patience, humility, I just really had to learn where my gaps were, where the holes in my character and personality were, and work to improve those. And when I got myself kind of right in the head about the role, and when I kind of improve some of the characteristics, make sure I'm acting with integrity, make sure that I'm demonstrating focus and respect and openness and all of our great Scrum values. When I got myself kind of in a good space, I noticed that things were easier in the workplace. And so first and foremost, I think the hardest part is getting yourself right, and then approaching others in an honest, humble, patient kind of way.
Yeah. And I mean, I agree with all that stuff. I think I've struggled there too. And, I'm just like kind of folding back through in my head all the times that I've been fortunate enough to be a Scrum Master. And it really, I had mentioned when I was kind of thinking through this out loud during the show that it depends on the context of your situation. because I've worked with some product owners that really needed a lot of help, and may not have known the role of the product owner. I worked in some organizations that really were new to Scrum. And with that came a lot of turbulence, coping with architecture team or, enterprise architecture teams, the fact that human resources was not equipped to hire people into a environment where the culture was changing. So I think that it could really be based on the context of the situation that you're in as a Scrum. We say that so much, and I don't mean that to be a cop-out, but...
The season of life that you're in is important. If you're early career, mid-career, late career, that's going to change your outlook and what you need to work on, your skill set. Just realizing that the Scrum Master role is wildly difficult. Yeah. It's very complex, right? We're supposed to be a teacher, a trainer, a mentor, a change agent, a facilitator, a coach, and we're supposed to be amazing at all of those things. And those are all individual careers in and of themselves. And so realizing that there's a huge body of work that we need to understand, there's always a book, and there's always books, lying here that we're trying to read through and increase our knowledge. There's plenty of podcasts and videos and blog posts and Medium articles, and we're always leveling up because the depth and breadth of knowledge that we're supposed to have is so wide. I think that's another important aspect of it, that just the complexity of the role and what we're asking people to do when they step into that position of honor. I think the other part that I didn't always keep focus on early on is that it is an honorable role. It is an honor to serve people, and realizing that, and that it's not a burden, and it's not, I finally learned how to go home joyfully because I had this position of honor to serve people, and every day I tried to serve a little better. And once I locked that in, some of the difficulties, some of these hardest parts, they got a little easier, Yeah.
So what I'm really interested in is what is the hardest part for you as a Scrum Master? And I would love to hear about it in the comments, right? Because down there, the comments. Somewhere down there is the comments. We'd love to hear what's the hardest part for you, right? And what would be interesting is if you maybe go back and visit that comment that you put down there and see if that's still the hardest thing 2 years from now. Heck, 2 months from now, 2 weeks from now, 2 hours from now. So we'd love to see what's the hardest part for you right now as a Scrum Master. I think those are our stories and where our brains are at. I bet if we did this podcast in a year, we might think differently.
I think it would totally change. What a great reflective moment. So what is the hardest part for you? Leave it in the comments. If you have questions about anything we've talked about, who knows? Maybe just like Ben, your question might end up in a future video.
Yeah, thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ben. And thanks to all of you. You've all been hitting that like and subscribe button. Keep doing that. The more likes and subscribes, the more content we can provide. If you want to connect with us, all of our socials are on the left. Todd and I are on the right. We are all over the place on social media. Feel free to reach out. Leave your questions and comments below, and we will take a look at them in the future. Thanks for joining us, and we can't wait to talk with you tomorrow.
See you, everybody.